For a long time, the Valley was Republican-leaning. It was the few people who were Democrats felt few and far between. And I'm thinking, in the 60s and the 70s and into the 80s, into the Reagan era, the business leaders were, they were there. They were like other business leaders. They tended to vote Republican. They, the kind of the gray eminence of Silicon Valley, Dave Packard, who was the co-founder of Hewlett-Packard, such an incredible influence on Valley's business culture, but also its political culture. He was a really important Republican supporter and donor. He was President Nixon's Deputy Secretary of Defense. He was a political entrepreneur. He had a sort of this political career that he continued throughout his life. But this starts turning in the early 1990s, and one of the person who really personally helps turn it is Bill Clinton, who is, the Democrats had been kind of talking admiringly about techies for a while. In the early 80s, there was a group of Democrats in Congress that talked so much about tech that Washington journalists started calling them the Atari Democrats because they were like, this is the future, we need to support technological industries. It's really funny because politicians talked a lot about tech, but tech didn't really love them back. It was interesting. I found again and again these efforts during the 80s, people like Gary Hart coming out and, trying to get to know Steve Jobs and get him to sort of publicly endorse Hart's presidential run in 1984, for example. And Jobs was uninterested. He never voted. In 1984, he admitted he'd never voted in his life. I hope later did vote, but there was this kind of the Silicon Valley, kind of the younger personal computer generation. First of all, they kind of grew up in opposition to big government and to bureaucracies and saw Washington politics as ossified, a sign of things that were wrong, things that were corrupt. Look, this is a generation that came of age during the Vietnam War and Watergate. They were very cynical about the capacity of government and policymakers to change things for the better. They felt that what they were doing was much more important, and they didn't pay much attention to politics. In the 1990s, this changes. Bill Clinton starts coming out to Silicon Valley even before he announces his run for president. Clinton was fascinated by technologists. He isn't a techie himself, but he likes powerful, interesting people, and he likes, and they were also people with money who might give him campaign donations. And like other Democrats of his generation, he saw the Valley as a symbol of the new economy to come, and how could the innovative energy of this economy and this industry be harnessed to bring America into the 21st century. And when Clinton picks Al Gore as his presidential running mate in 1992, that really seals the deal. Gore was one of the few people in Congress in the 80s who was really deeply interested in tech. Yes, he got made fun of later for appearing to seem to say that he invented the internet, which he didn't, and he didn't really say that either. But there was a small number of people, Gore being one of them, Newt Gingrich being another, two people who were really consequential to 1990s politics. In the 80s, they're in Congress and they're sitting down and talking with futurists like Alvin Toffler. They're bringing in supercomputing specialists. They're bringing in Turing Prize winners and trying to understand how this world is evolving. And no one else was doing that. These policymakers, you have Gore, you have Gingrich, you also have Ed Markey, who's now senator from Massachusetts. He was in the House then, chair of the telecom subcommittee. They're paying attention, and what they're doing is really consequential and laying the groundwork for what happens in the internet age to come. It's kind of hidden from sight. Not a lot of people are paying attention, and it's extremely important.